Hello and welcome to the Brentwood-Darlington Neighborhood Association virtual candidate interview series. My name is Chelsea Powers. I'm the current chair for Brentwood-Darlington Neighborhood Association, also known as BDNA. In normal circumstances, BDNA would host in-person events to help our neighbors get to know local candidates. Since these are not normal circumstances, we have decided to interview candidates virtually. Today's interview is with Mingus Maps, candidate for Portland City Council Position 4. Thank you for agreeing to this interview. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Mingus Maps. I'm a candidate for Portland City Council. I appreciate this opportunity to introduce myself and ask you for your vote, and to tell you a little bit about my campaign. I'm running for Portland City Council because I love Portland, but I'm also deeply concerned about the direction our city is heading in. And we all know the problems. You know, you got where we're all hunkering in our houses because of COVID. Our economy is in collapse. Our school buildings have been closed for about 7 months now. We're just coming off a series of wildfires, and which reminds us that climate change is real. We have people out in the streets almost every night demanding racial justice. People have lost faith in their public safety system and in City Hall. You know, all of these things point towards a crisis and a need for change. And one of the reasons why I'm in this race is I believe I'm a candidate who can bring change to City Hall. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm a single dad. I'm a Democrat. I'm progressive and I'm pragmatic. I have deep roots in Portland. Did my undergraduate work at Reed College and then went on to get a PhD in government from Cornell University. And my career has been split in half, where I have been an academic teaching on issues surrounding race and political science and urban politics at places like Harvard and Cornell and Brandeis University and Portland State University and Reed College. And I've also been a public servant here in Portland. So for example, I've held policymaking positions at the City of Portland, Multnomah County, and Portland Public Schools. You know, all of those experiences have taught me a lot about how Portland works and how we can make Portland work better. When I'm on City Council, my top agenda items will be progressive but pragmatic. You know, the things I really care about and want to make progress on are COVID recovery, you know, racial justice, police reform, homelessness, affordable housing, and I want to fundamentally reimagine and reform the way City Hall is organized. There are three changes I have there. First, I'd like to increase the number of seats we have on City Council. Right now, there are 4. I think we need more. I want to change the way we fill those seats. I think it's important that we fill those seats through neighborhood-based elections, as opposed to our current system where every member of council runs at large. And the final reform I'm going to push when I'm in City Hall is to direct the rest of City Council to hire a city manager to coordinate services across different city bureaus. Now, I know that's a complicated and ambitious agenda, but I know we can get it done. Portland has done amazing things before, and we can do amazing things again. You know, I believe we can build safe, healthy, engaged, and empowered neighborhoods. You know, I think that we can literally eliminate chronic homelessness and bring more affordable housing to the city. You know, and I think that we can embrace growth and diversity while also preserving our environment. So if you believe in those things too, I hope that you'll give our campaign a look. You can learn more about my campaign at our website, which is mingusmaps.com.
Thank you.
Sure.
Now, BDNA asks neighbors to submit questions and combine the results into 6 questions for this interview. Mingus received those questions prior to this interview, and I'm going to go ahead and start those now. Question 1. In view of the Clackamas County wildfire crisis, what can the city government do to improve its procedures for disseminating emergency information to residents? Additionally, what should the city government do to better prepare residents and structures for the anticipated Cascadia subduction event?
Sure. Well, I'm going to combine my response to those 2 questions into one list of, I think, 5 things that the city and Portlanders can do. First, I think it's important that we expand and support our net teams. I'd like to see net teams in every corner of the city. I used to manage the city's neighborhood association system. And when I was at the city, one of the things that we talked about a lot was what lesson could the net teams learn from our neighborhood association system? And the neighborhood association system's not perfect, but I do think there are important lessons there. Another thing which I think is really important is public education. So a thing I'd like to urge everyone to do today, like right now, since you're already sitting at your computer, is to go to publicalerts.org. That's how the city gets out information about crises like wildfires or an earthquake, for example. If you sign up there, it'll send notices to your phone in real time. That's an important thing that you can do. I think it's also important that every Portlander get your emergency kit together. You know, that 2 weeks worth of supplies that'll help you survive an earthquake or wildfires when things are shut down, or a pandemic. I think a lesson of the last 7 months is that you literally need to be prepared, because things can and do come up that literally disrupt your life and the economy. And I think we also, another important thing on the earthquake piece is I think that the city really needs to develop some mechanism to help building owners retrofit their buildings to prepare for an earthquake. I think that's one of the challenges that we're facing right now, is we have lots of old, lovely buildings that are not ready for an earthquake. I think everyone wants to upgrade those, but what we're finding is that it's kind of difficult to pay for those. And I'd like to see the city play a more progressive role in helping Portlanders get that important basic maintenance done.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Question 2. To lessen tensions between police and residents and to relieve the police bureau of responsibilities not directly related to keeping the peace, how should the city government reshape or recast the Portland Police Bureau?
Sure. Well, I'm not one who thinks that we should defund the police. However, I do believe that we should reimagine public safety, literally starting with a blank piece of paper. What I think we need to do is to come together as a community and have a rich and deep discussion about the kind of public safety system that we want. That's part of what I've been doing as I've been campaigning over the past year. And I think the good news here is that there is a Portland consensus about what our public safety system should look like. I think people want a public safety system which emphasizes prevention, restorative justice. These are things that we can do, but I think it will require us to reimagine how we do our work. And I'm excited to be at the table as we do that. And I do think that it's important that we actually do things different. And let me give you one example of a thing I want to do different, which will profoundly and utterly change policing in Portland. Right now, literally 49% of the 911 calls that the police respond to are basically boiled down to a houseless person having a mental health crisis in some sort of public space. Sending a cop to calls like that is frankly just bad public service. It's very expensive. The only tools that the cop has is they can tell the person in crisis to move along, or they can kind of take them downtown, but none of those steps actually connect that person in crisis with the services they need. That's why I support an alternative model to service delivery on public safety. When we get mental health calls like that, instead of sending out a cop, which is basically a Marine, I think that we should send out a social worker and someone who's trained in crisis de-escalation. We actually have a pilot project like that in the works here in Portland. It's called the Streets Response Team, and that's exactly what it'll do. When the 911 call comes in about someone in crisis, they'll send out the social worker. And let me tell you how this works. I've actually talked to the people who will do the work in this program. I mean, they've done little pilot projects before, and they told me about one call they responded to, which really illustrates the change I want to make. What they do, so in this call, they got a 911 call, a houseless person having a mental health crisis in public. They show up, and instead of saying, you know, move along or get in the squad car, they said, what's wrong? And the houseless person said, well, you know, I have cancer and I have a doctor's appointment and I can't get to my doctor's appointment. So instead of taking that guy to jail, what they did is they took that guy to his doctor's appointment. And that's a sign of just how simple reforms to our public safety system can have a profound impact on the way we keep Portlanders safe and healthy. Literally, it's possible to replace, 49% of our 911 calls with a system like that. It would be better service to the public and frankly, a lot cheaper too. So I'm excited to embrace changes like that.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Question 3. What actions can the city government take to help resolve the homelessness crisis?
Right. This is a classic Portland question. Literally one of the things that got me into this race. Uh-oh.
Go back ahead.
Sure. Very important question. We were talking about houselessness in Portland. Literally one of the reasons why I got in this race. I think all of us know that the number of people who've been sleeping on our streets has increased exponentially over recent years. That's a tragedy and a profound failure for the entire city. It hurts both the people sleeping on the streets and those of us who are lucky enough to have houses, but have to kind of avert our eyes and harden our hearts as we walk by folks sleeping in tents. So we really got to make progress on this. If we don't, we will lose something important about our city, and I think something important about our character. I do have a plan to dramatically reduce houselessness in our city. I think one of the most effective things we can do to end houselessness is to prevent people from losing their homes in the first place. That's why I'm a strong advocate for renter protections. And that's also why, especially at this COVID moment, I think it's so important that the city put as many dollars as possible into a new emergency rental assistance fund. That way people can manage to keep a roof over their heads while we wait for the economy to come back. I also think that the city needs to end chronic homelessness. Folks who sleep on the streets every day. We have about 4,000 people in Portland who sleep on the streets every day. There's a reason why those folks are out on the streets. We've done surveys with that community. We know at least half suffer from mental illness or drug addiction or some physical disability, which also prevents them from getting a job and going inside. These folks are not going to wake up tomorrow and realize the errors of their ways and get healthy. They need help. And that's why I think it's really important that the city just kind of step up to the plate and provide housing for our most vulnerable Portlanders, those kind of 4,000 folks who have been on the street for every night of the year and frankly are dying out on the streets. I think we can do this. Over the last several years, Portland and the metro area has set aside $500 million for new affordable housing. What I'm saying the city needs to do is set aside use some of those funds to create about 4,000 units of new affordable housing that we can target it towards our chronic houseless population so they can come inside. And then what we need to do is work with our partners over at the county to connect that housing to social services. So we can go to our most vulnerable Portlanders, say, here's a key to your new home and here's a doctor's appointment. And we can work with that community to get them healthy and keep them inside. So I think that's really important. And the final thing that I would say on this topic is, we can reduce homelessness if we bring more affordable housing to the city. That's why I want to, number one, preserve the affordable housing that we already have. And number two, get the city out of the way of bringing new affordable housing into our town. A thing which is remarkable is that because of the bureaucracy down at City Hall, it can cost affordable housing developers as much in fees to build their new house as it does in materials for that house. It can also take more than a year to get plans for new affordable housing approved, and it takes far too long to get affordable housing projects inspected. By the time you go through all those hoops and pay for all that, you wind up not having affordable housing. But if we just set priorities and incentives in City Hall that create incentives and reasons to build more affordable housing, we would actually have more affordable housing. And we have to move on this urgently because we're already 29,000 units short of the affordable housing that we need.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, question 4. What should the city government do to address the fact that in 2020, nearly 25% of the actions listed in the Multnomah County City of Portland Climate Action Plan from 2015 are facing serious impediments to implementation?
Sure. Well, first, the good news for Portland is I do think that we have a great plan for reducing pollution and climate change in our city. The bad news is we've done a terrible job of implementing that plan. Here's what I think we can do about that. Me, I want you to know I take climate change seriously, and I really appreciate and honor the Portland's Climate Change Action Plan. When I am in City Council and have bureaus to manage, one of the things I'll do is actually make hitting those goals a top priority. I'll hold ourselves accountable. And one of the problems and one of the reasons right now why we've only accomplished 25% of the goals there is that no one is really in charge of implementing this. This is sort of a side effect of the commission form of government, where no one is really in charge or everyone is in charge. I think that the fix for that is to direct City Council to hire a city manager to coordinate services across bureaus, which includes things like holding individual bureaus accountable for implementing their piece of the Climate Change Action Plan.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, question 5.
Sure.
When developing programs or designing projects, what can the city government do to bolster resident participation and improve communication with affected residents?
Oh, sure. Well, I think one of the places to start, and then indeed this does explain why I'm in this race, is to fix the Office of Civic Life. Civic Life is a bureau that is basically charged with facilitating citizen engagement with the city. Civic Life is also a famously troubled and dysfunctional bureau. The commissioner I'm running against has been in charge of Civic Life, and frankly, under her leadership, it has only gotten worse. I've been a manager in the Office of Civic Life. A year ago, I knew everyone's name who worked in that bureau. I've been away for a while, but I'll tell you, it's fixable, but the key to fixing Civic Life is a change in leadership, and that's why I'm in this race.
Thank you. Question 6. With an eye to advancing Portland's mission, goals, and values, what can the city government do to attain greater collaboration between itself and its 94 recognized neighborhood associations?
Sure. Well, the first thing that the city government should do is to end the war on neighborhood associations. This is one of the most mystifying and baffling things I've ever seen a local government do. I'll tell you, I used to be the guy in charge of neighborhood associations for the entire city. So I was your liaison to all 95 different neighborhood associations. I see the good work that you do. I think you're part of the solution and you're not part of the problem. That is one of the distinctions between me and the incumbent. And let me tell you, neighborhood associations are incredibly innovative. Each one is different. Some do plant sales, some do neighborhood cleanups, some do street fairs. One of the things I'll do when I'm on city council is I'll bring neighborhood associations together periodically so you can exchange best ideas. You guys have been completely without support from the city for years now. If the neighborhood association system is struggling at all, it's partly because City Hall is literally trying to undermine you. I think that is insane. And then also I want to clearly articulate that, neighborhood associations in no way do nor should press out other voices. My theory of democracy is that we get our best democracy as we get more people to the table. And that's why I think it's important that we have healthy neighborhood associations, but we can always expand the table of democracy. So there's no reasons why neighborhood associations should be in conflict or in tension with new immigrant groups or other sort of community groups. Portland should be the kind of place where grassroots democracy and community grow and thrive. And when I'm in charge of the neighborhood association system, those are the values and principles that I'll bring to the job.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for answering these questions. And would you like to make a final statement before we end the recording?
Sure. Mostly, I'd like to just thank you, Brentwood-Darlington, for this opportunity to talk to you about this campaign. I'll tell you, I think this is one of the most important races of our lifetime. If you think about the challenges that we face now, COVID, the environment, climate change, homelessness, affordable housing, all of those issues basically are City Hall issues. So what we're doing in this election is choosing the leadership that is going to lead us into the future and through these rocky waters. If you are excited about the vision that I brought to City Council, I sure hope I can count on your vote. And if you're not sure yet, please take a moment to look at our website, mingusmaps.com. You can find where our issues are and we're out on Zoom doing events every day at this point. And if you'd like a lawn sign, like the one you see up above me, you can also click the lawn sign button and we'll have a volunteer deliver you a free lawn sign. And thank you so much. Stay well, and we'll see you on Election Day.
For more information and other candidate interviews, please visit brentwood-darlington.org.